So hi guys, so we worked on Kitty Terminal during the first hackathon, and the main issue that we worked on was to display images nicely, I would say, in the terminal, Kitty Terminal. So I'll just quickly explain the issue, just a quick walkthrough of it. So if you run the Kitty Terminal and you use the iCat kitten that is there to get the images, so as you can see, the images gets rendered to the terminal, but the issue is that you get the images one by one. So what it does is that it recursively scans through the images in directory and shows them one by one. The next issue is that what it does is that there is no resizing. That is, if I try to resize my terminal, the image does not resize it accordingly. So we wanted a grid-like structure here, and what we essentially wanted was the images to be shown like this. And next thing was the resizing. So how we plan to achieve this was firstly to get the images recursively from the directory, then was to calculate the grid based on the current terminal conditions. Next was the thing where we want to handle the resizing. Suppose I resize it, then all those calculations that we did earlier, the grid calculations, they don't need to be done again, and we need something to listen to that window changes. Next was like the navigation part. We want to navigate through the keys and through mouse only, but here due to the time restriction we'll only be able to implement it using our keyboard, the navigation part. And lastly was to integrate it with the Kitty's graphic protocol that is already there to render the images. So that the last part we were not able to achieve because in the certain time limit, but then the rest of the things that we implemented during the hackathon, I'll just tell you like how we did it and how it. So now coming to the first part that was there, that was related to resizing. So what we're doing is we created a session, and we basically are creating a new kitten, the IV kitten that is there. And in that session we are handling for any window size changes and also listening for any keyboard interrupts that might be there by the user to do the navigation part. And we're using Go routines so that everything went so the multi-threading happens smoothly. Like we're giving it to every thread to process the things that we need. Now that is how we're handling the resizing part that is there, like listening for the resizing essentially. Now the main calculations that are there are being done in the grid engine. So I'll just quickly explain like what is happening. We have a global images index. So what it stores is that we recursively go through a directory and find all the images, and we store its path and coordinates. Next we have an array that stores the pages. Now what are pages? Pages represents like the number of images that we want to store. Like that would be defined in a global config. So suppose I only want to show 6 images, 3 in a row and 2 in a column. So that is what is there. So 6 to 11, as you can see, would be one page, and 0 to 5 would be one page. So that is there. Now what we need to do is we need to calculate like like the coordinates of that particular image, how much coordinates it is taking. And the problem is that every image is not perfect. Perfect meaning like if I have calculated a grid size, so ideally I would calculate my grid size would be like the total length that is there of the grid divided by like the number of images I want there. That is 3. So that would give me the x bound, and similarly the y bound. So ideally my images would be of this height and width, but they are not, and we need to resize them. And these are the calculations that are showing like how my grid structure would have like these are the calculations for the grid. So they would be 0 by 0 coordinate, then x bound like we move one step, that is x bound, other step that is 2 times x bound. That is the calculations. Now what we're doing for the images is firstly we'll resize them according to the aspect ratio that is there. Like if they're not fitting, if they're fitting, then that is well. And after that what we're doing, like after we have done the resizing, we're centering it so that UI wise the experience is nice for the user. So we need to maintain the aspect ratio. That is what we've already implemented, and then we give it to the rendering part to render it. I'll quickly show you like how it is being run. So if I run it, what it essentially does is that firstly it gets all the images and places the coordinates to the images that is there, and then that rendering part, what it does is that it calculates the size of the image and then it places it at a particular coordinate in the terminal. So then we can give it to the rendering part. Now, so this was all the calculations and things that we did. We're in process for the rendering part, but we were not able to achieve it in this time constraints. But so we are working on it, and we'll continue to work further on it. Thank you.